Welcome to episode 43 of OTD, your daily dose of soccer history by 17 Laws Guy. It's December 13, 1954, at Molineux in Wolverhampton, a damp, muddy Monday night in the English Midlands. Under brand new floodlights, Wolves, champions of England, host Honvéd, the club side built around Hungary's Mighty Magyars. On one side, Billy Wright, Roy Swinburne, Johnny Hancocks, and a Stan Collins team that believes the English way, hard running, with crosses, pressure, still has something to say. On the other, Ferenc Puskás, Sándor Kocsis, Zoltán Csibor, Joseph Borsig, the core of a Hungarian golden generation that has just humiliated England 6-3 at Wembley and 7-1 in Budapest, and only months earlier somehow contrived to lose a World Cup final most people assumed they'd win. By halftime, Honvéd lead 2-0 and it looks like another lesson in continental football. By full-time, Wolves have won 3-2 and the Daily Mail is calling them champions of the world. A French journalist in Paris, Gabriel Hanot of L'Équipe, reads that headline and fumes. If English clubs want to claim world supremacy based on one muddy friendly in Wolverhampton, fine, but let's prove it properly. And within a year, his campaign will help launch a brand new tournament, the European Champions Club Cup. Tonight's episode is about that change reaction. We'll look at how English football backed itself into an insular corner between 1928 and 1954. Why floodlights and money make nights like this possible. The game itself, Puskás and Kocsis 2-0 up, but Wolves coming back 3-2. How champions of the world enraged Europe and notched the European Cup into existence. And what happened next to Wolves, Honvéd, and the Mighty Magyars after the 1956 revolution. To understand why this muddy friendly mattered so much, we need to wind back a quarter century. In 1928, the four British associations, England, Scotland, Wales, and Northern Ireland, walked out of FIFA over a dispute over broken time payments to amateur players. They felt they'd invented the game and didn't need a Swiss-based body telling them how to run it. They didn't come back until 1946. That meant they skipped the first 3 World Cups, and that they played mainly within the British Isles with the odd tour, and they nursed a quiet assumption that English football was naturally superior. When they finally entered the World Cup in 1950, reality bit. In Belo Horizonte, an England side packed with first division players lost 1-0 to the United States. A result so shocking, one English paper reportedly printed it as USA 1, England 10, assuming a typo. But the real earthquake came from Hungary. On November 25, 1953, Hungary beat England 6-3 at Wembley in the match of the century. Nandor Hidekuti, playing as what we'd now call a false nine, kept dropping off the front line. English centre-halves weren't sure whether to follow or hold. He scored a hat-trick. Ferenc Puskás added 2 more, including the famous drag-back that left Billy Wright sliding past, like a fire engine going to the wrong fire, in Geoffrey Green's line for the Times. 6 months later, in Budapest, Hungary won 7-1. It remains England's heaviest defeat. So by late 1954, the English football psyche is bruised. The empire is fading. The English way, wingers, crosses, and physicality, has been made to look prehistoric by a socialist Hungarian team that talks about collective play and tactical systems. That's a backdrop when Honvéd, effectively the club version of the Mighty Magyars, comes to Wolverhampton. The other big character in this story is not human, it's the floodlight. In the early 1950s, floodlit football is still a novelty. Most English league games kick off at 2 or 3 p.m. on Saturdays because once it gets dark, that's it. No lights, no football. After the war, 2 forces collide. One is demand. Huge working class appetite for football, including midweek games after factory hours. And the other is technology. Lighting has improved enough that clubs can realistically illuminate a full pitch. Wolves are among the pioneers. They installed floodlights in 1953, turning them on that September for a match against South Africa. Soon they are hosting glamorous midweek games against Celtic, Racing Club of Buenos Aires, Spartak Moscow, and Dynamo Moscow, drawing big gates and big gate receipts. It's good economics. You spread fixed costs like stadium and players over more fixtures. You tap into an evening crowd that would otherwise be home. And you can sell your club as an international brand. Well, before brand is even a word clubs use. The shirts changed too. Under the lights, heavy woolen kits look dull. Wolves experiment with lighter, shinier fabrics that shimmer on black and white TV. Even the linesmen's flags get illuminated handles in some games. You can say it's a 1950s version of goal line tech. These floodlit friendlies start to feel like something more than friendlies. There's no European Cup yet, so if you want to see the English champions against the Hungarian champions, this is your only route. The matches are lucrative for clubs, technically fascinating for coaches, and crucially, broadcast. The 7th half of Wolves vs Honvéd is shown live on BBC television, at a time when normally only FA Cup finals and full internationals get that treatment, and the whole game is carried on radio until the BBC famously fades out 90 seconds early to go to a variety program called Show Band Show. So when Honvéd roll into Molineux, this isn't just a practice match, it's a prime-time experiment in what international club football under lights could be. Wolves are reigning English champions, having won the 1953-54 First Division with 96 goals scored. Stan Kocsis, their 36-year-old manager, is one of the most driven minds in the game, ex-England centre-half, obsessive note-taker, fitness pioneer. He believes in supreme conditioning, quick direct football, getting the ball wide early to wingers like Johnny Hancock and Les Smith, and relentless pressure in the opposition half. His captain is Billy Wright, England's captain, first man to reach 100 caps, media star with a pop singer girlfriend. If you squint, he's the David Beckham of that era. Honvéd, meanwhile, are defenders of the homeland. Well, that's literally what Honvéd translates into. Loaded with the core of the national side. Ferenc Puskás, left-footed genius, already a national hero. Sandor Kocsis, centre-forward nicknamed Golden Head for his aerial prowess. Sultan Sibor, lightning-quick winger. And Josip Bosic, playmaking halfback, the metronome. They've just come off a brutal 18 months, unbeaten for years, heavy favourites for the 1954 World Cup, 2-0 up in the final against West Germany, and somehow they lose 3-2 on a muddy pitch in Bern. They are still in December 1954, widely regarded as the best team in the world. Kocsis, ever the pragmatist, looks out at the Molineux surface after 4 days of rain and thinks back to that Bern final. The story goes that he sends a few apprentices, including a teenage Ron Atkinson, out with watering cans to further soak the center of the pitch, leaving the wings relatively firmer, so Wolves can run by Honvéd's intricate passing boxed down in the mud. Pure? Maybe not, but in Kocsis' mind this is just using home conditions intelligently. Kick-off. Molineux is packed, around 55,000 fans jammed under the lights, terraces swaying, breath steaming in the cold air. Early on it looks like the script from Wembley and Budapest all over again. Honvéd win a free kick on Wolves' left, the ball is swung in and Kocsis, the golden head, buries a header, 1-0. Not long after, Magyars makes it 2-0. Honvéd are up 2, inside 15 minutes. The Hungarians are gliding across the mud. Puskás and Kocsis are combining. Billy Wright is set to throw his arms down in frustration, haunted by flashbacks of 6-3 and 7-1. At halftime, it's still 2-0. Under the stand, Kocsis stays calm. He tells his players, don't panic, get the ball forward earlier, use the wings incessantly. Hancock and Smith must be in the game. And instead of trying to mark Puskás and Kocsis man-to-man, cut off the supply at source. Then, early in the second half, comes the moment everyone still argues about. A Wolves attacker runs across the top corner of the box. There's minimal contact, and the referee, Reginald Leaf, a Nottinghamshire man, points to the spot for what the commentator calls obstruction. Under the laws of the town, obstruction should mean an indirect free kick, not a penalty. But the decision stands, and Johnny Hancock converts 2-1. Molineux erupts. Under the lights, with the terrace banks in darkness and the pitch a bright rectangle, the sound and the sense of momentum are overwhelming. Wolves' famed fitness starts to tell. The quagmire in midfield blunts Honvéd's patterns. With about a quarter of an hour left, Dennis Wilshaw, who has already had a surreal day, reportedly hitting a boy on a bicycle on the way to the ground and being waved on by a sympathetic policeman, crosses for centre-forward Roy Swinburne. He heads in, 2-2. Molineux sways, literally. 90 seconds later, Wolves complete the turnaround. Wilshaw slips Swinburne through again, the Hungarian defence is all over the place, and Swinburne lashes the ball into the corner. 3-2. The champions of England have beaten the darlings of Europe, under the floodlights, live, in part, on national television. On the radio, listeners missed the finale, because the BBC has faded to Show Band Show. They only learn the final score from the news. But in the ground in Wolverhampton, it feels like something more than a friendly. For one night, England has its football pride back. Then English newspapers go to work. Former Sunderland and Arsenal forward Charlie Buchan, now a columnist, hails the results and proves that the English style, direct, fast, wing-driven, is still valid. The Daily Mail runs the headline that would echo across Europe. Wolves are champions of the world, quoting Kocsis, who had reportedly said that his team were the best in the world. Outside England, that goes down badly. Willy Meisel, brother of Austria's great coach Hugo Meisel, and a keen observer of English football, points out that only days earlier, Honvéd had lost a mud-soaked game to Red Star Belgrade, then 7th in Yugoslavia, and nobody called Red Star world champions. He remarks dryly that quagmires are not usually considered the best pitches on which world championships ought to be decided. In Paris, Gabriel Hanot, former French international, now influential editor at L'Équipe, is more than annoyed. He is inspired. If Wolves are champions of the world on the basis of one home friendly, why not organize a proper competition to find Europe's best club side? Over the following months, Hanot and a colleague draft proposals for a pan-European club tournament. L'Équipe publishes a proposed format in early 1955, listing 18 invited champions and great clubs, including Wolves. UEFA was only founded in June 1954, but with backing from L'Équipe, Real Madrid and others, the European Champion Clubs Cup kicks off in 1955. Wolves, ironically, don't enter the first edition. Chelsea, as English champions, are blocked by the Football League, and is left to Matt Busby's Manchester United to become England's first European standard bearers, a year later though. So while the European Cup's birth has many parents, post-war rebuilding, improved transport, television, and UEFA's creation, that muddy night under the floodlights at Molineux is the dot that connected. For Wolves, the 100th win is a high matter walk in reputation. Domestically, they stay formidable. League titles in 58 and 59 and FA Cup in 60. But in Europe, they never quite become the force that champions of the world implied. When they finally face truly elite continental opposition in competitive play, notably Elenio Herrera's Barcelona in 1960, they lose 9-2 on aggregate. Herrera, never shy, lectures the English press about playing with strength but no method, no technique, accusing them of missing the evolution of modern football. For Honvéd and the Hungarian golden generation, the next 2 years are even more dramatic. In 55, they remain a power in Hungary. In 56, they enter the second European Cup and draw Athletic Bilbao in the first round. Honvéd lose 3-2 in Spain, and then, as they prepare for the second leg, the Hungarian Revolution erupts in Budapest and is crossed by Soviet tanks. The players refuse to go back. The home second leg is moved to Heysel in Brussels. Honvéd draw 3-3 and go out 6-5 on aggregate, having played part of the match with winger Sultan Sibor in goal after their keeper is injured. Now they're in limbo, politically and football-wise. They summon their families and embark on a barnstorming tour of Western Europe and then Brazil, playing exhibitions against Real Madrid, Barcelona and others. FIFA eventually bans them from using the Honvéd name. Some players like Bosic and Kocsis return to Hungary. Others, Puskás, Kocsis and Sibor, become exiles and sign for Real Madrid and Barcelona after serving suspensions. The Mighty Magyars are effectively dismantled by politics. Hungary's national team never again reaches the heights of 1950-54. Honvéd themselves only avoid relegation in 1957 because the Hungarian league expands. So when we look back at Wolves versus Honvéd, we're not just seeing the English champions against the Hungarian champions, or a world title decided in the mud, or a TV spectacle under new floodlights. We're also seeing England trying to claw back pride after a generation of self-inflicted isolation and tactical stagnation. Hungary at the peak of an extraordinary football project that would soon be smashed by revolution and exile. And European football at a hinge moment, about to move from ad hoc friendlies and newspaper boasts into a structured continent-wide competition. On this day in 1954, Wolves beat Honvéd 3-2, and the Daily Mail shouts champions of the world. A French editor bristles, drafts a new idea, and within a year the European Cup is real. In that sense, the European nights we watch now, group stages, anthem, knockout ties, all trace a faint line back to a muddy, flooded pitch in Wolverhampton. That's all for episode 43 of OTD. Got sources, memories, or family stories from those early European nights? Then email us at otd@17lawsguy.com, subscribe, and leave us a 5-star review so the algorithm sends more football history obsessives our way. Tomorrow, in episode 44, we head to Montevideo in 1941, to Nacional's 6-0 win over Peñarol. The Clásico that sealed the Uruguayan title with a 100% record became a cornerstone of Nacional's identity. Stay tuned and see you then.